Hi, kitty cats. Today is July 8th, 2025. It's a Tuesday, and I'm going to try this new format for my live streams. Today I have two not all that small topics to discuss, but one of them sort of small, including an article that I found. It's from scientists claiming that we should step up when it comes to misinformation in politics. And then I also am going to talk about the role that documentation plays in identity. And then actually later on, we're also going to bring in two guests. That's right, who willingly agreed to be the first victims. I'm sure this is all going to go swimmingly, so, when things break, we'll see what happens. All right, some opening plugs here. I am, of course, Dr. Amethyst Herrick. I am an author and a podcaster who discusses identity and gender from a scientific standpoint. You can check this link below. There's more information about me and the work that I do. My website, as you can see, is purplepawclan.com. If you go there, you can find my personal page and you can follow me on all the social media networks, that you ever would possibly care to want to. You can also view my articles and view my podcasts, and it'll be a lot of fun for that. So if you like this particular piece of content, I hope you'll consider subscribing at purplepawclan.com. You can get a subscription for as low as $5 a month, and even actually, if you just want to be able to keep track of everything, just subscribe to the newsletter, and that's just as well. I also publish articles and podcasts by other contributors. So if you are interested in contributing your work actually about identity and gender, I encourage you to email me. It's once again going to be at this same website /contact. You can send me an email there, and I'd love to continue talking to you. So, all right, I got a little bit of content here before I bring in the first guest. I'm calling this at this point. Well, first of all, let me acknowledge everybody. So I'm looking at Red. I hear that you're from Bulgaria because Margie said so. Margie's actually downstairs right now. You can't see her. Downstairs on the webpage, like we're not in the same room or house. But so hello, Red. Good to see you there. I'm looking at Princess Thistle as well. It's good to see you, Thistle. It's been a while since I think I've seen you live. So this is Tuesday's Tidbits. Hopefully this will work out well. This is where I want to talk about just small topics that interest me when I find them. And there are times when I'll be thinking, I'll be taking a walk or something, and I'll go, "Oh, that's a good topic." But it's like it's not a 20-minute kind of thing. It's not it's not something that I would want to make a whole video about or write a whole article about. So mostly what I've done is I have these thoughts, and then I just toss them because I go, it could have been fun, but I don't know how to do them. So how to do them is right here. If you have some crazy thoughts, send them along. I think I already told you there's a contact page right below, so go and check, go to the contact page if you have an idea, send it to me. I'll even talk about it. If you would like to be a guest as well, there's the contact page. Do it again. It all goes through the contact page. Just run with me on this. So if you want to appear, if you have ideas, send them to me. With these guests, since this is a brand new format, like I wrote a little form letter, to send out to guests, there are some ground rules. So everybody's going to get 15 minutes. I have like a little timer. So I'll bring somebody in, I'll go, you have 15 minutes, run. They get to talk about what they want to talk about. Like, I don't really want to, I'd love to do it, to have a discussion, of course, but, I'm not dictating this, and in at least with one person tonight, I don't even know what she's going to bring. So there you go. But when it's over, it's over. There was one last point I wanted to make. There's a friend of the show who's, we've seen him around often. That's Grief Foundation. It's right about now. I'm sure Miss Chief would be saying, what the hell? He gets more shout outs than anybody on the planet. Maybe true. He also lives in Texas, and he is currently being affected by those Texas floods where all the telephone lines are down. So I wanted to, just to say, listen, you're in my thoughts, Grief. I hope you're doing okay. I hear that he's actually doing all right. But anyway, just wanted to say that right at the beginning, since Grief is, a good friend of the show. So All right, I do have one quick topic. Let's see. First of all, I'm looking at Anita Lichtenberg is here as well. Hello, Anita. Good to see you. So good afternoon, whatever time. I got 5 o'clock p.m. We're going to see how this goes. 5 o'clock p.m. I'm also looking at Morgan. Hi, Morgan. Good to see you. And then Brenda. Good to see you here. Brenda makes the point, as many of us have ADD, just say squirrel, and we'll talk for hours. So true. Anytime I go on a podcast, they always go, I'd like to record 30 minutes. And about 2.5 hours later, I'm like, do you think you have enough like content? And they're like, yeah, you didn't shut the hell up. I mean, could have shut the hell up. Would have been a fun show, but not entirely true. It's usually only about 2 hours. All right. It's like an introductory topic here. I want to talk about this thought that hit me just this morning. In fact, I was thinking about it. So Red here says, pretty sure they have ADHD. So there you go. Here's the thought that I had. It's about documentation. So a major part of the transgender experience, of course, is our social transition. And a lot of that is, a lot of that has to do with, yeah, look at that. It didn't work on the other platform yet again. All right, whatever. A major part of the transgender experience is social transition, right? We're changing clothes. Maybe we're learning about makeup. If you're going MTF, if you're going FTM, maybe you're removing the makeup. But we're changing how we express ourselves in society. And the thing is, this happens with or without medical transition. I mean, oftentimes you will start some medical transition and then go into social transition. But the point is, we end up having to do many of these things, whether or not we have easy access to medical transition, whether it's HRT or whatever, surgery, whatever. So changing documentation. Now, the first thing that I did, I changed my name, okay? Changed my name, I went to the courthouse, I did that. And then after that, once I had that certificate, I could get a driver's license, change my driver's license, which let me change my social security card. And once I had those, I could go and get a passport. And in the meantime, I applied for a birth certificate, yada, yada. And I had somebody, I don't even remember when this was, but I made some point. I think I had just got my birth certificate, which would have happened at the beginning of 2024. Yeah, so a little more than a year ago, about a year and a half, I got my birth certificate back from the state of California. And somebody said to me, somebody left a comment that says, yeah, well, changing your documentation doesn't change who you are. And I thought, well, no, it doesn't. I mean, but there's like this underlying assumption, like that comment, the underlying assumption was that having documentation does make us who we are. And I thought, well, I mean, you have a sex assigned at birth. Some doctor holds you up and goes, yeah, I don't know. Puts it on a birth certificate. But the thing is that errors can happen. Errors have happened. In fact, actually, I did a podcast with somebody named Mara Starling, who has a birth certificate from England that shows F on it. And she was assigned male at birth. So errors can happen. Documents, very frequently, can get lost in natural disasters. Sometimes that's good. In fact, here's what's good. I got a speeding ticket in Georgia in like 1998. There we go. Speeding ticket in Georgia in 1998. And it came back to haunt me in like 2020, I don't know, like 2020 or something like that. I'm not even really sure. The point here is that I called them up. I'm like, okay, I got to take care of the speeding ticket. And they went, oh, yeah, we had a fire in the courthouse like a decade ago. We don't even have the record of it. Just, you're cool. Only they said it in like Southern, like in Georgian. So, it's something different. So sometimes that's good. You lose documents. But like what happens to people if that occurs? If you lose some birth certificates, if you lose driver's license records, if you lose something or another, what happens? Like nothing. If you have errors, like, are those okay to change? But when I voluntarily want to change my name to something that suits me, that's not okay? Because where do these documents come from? I did a little bit of research, because why not? Turns out birth certificates, as a general rule, are relatively new. The very first clear birth certificate was issued in the UK in 1853. 1853. That's 150 years ago, 170 years ago. It's not that long ago. I mean, it is like in human years, but like in dog years, it's like infinity. So, anyway, it's not that long ago. The first clear birth certificate. And the thing is, too, is that birth certificates are not even universal. In the United States, we were 50 years behind the UK. We only standardized birth certificates in 1902, little more than 100 years ago. And the United Nations has this great plan in place so that we will have global standardization of birth certificates in 5 years. By 2030 is their plan. These are by no means universal. These are by no means, something that really, indicates a person's existence. Now, this person who said, changing your documentation doesn't change who you are. Yeah, I know. I think this person was trying to make it about science. Like, well, we have documentation that said that you were assigned male at birth, so there. But like, is the name that a parent's going to give a child, like, is that based in science? No, I mean, my parents were like, I don't know, we'll name the kid whatever. I don't really want to say whatever. I mean, it was my father who said, well, of course we're going to name him after me, right? My father. Thanks. It's not even scientific. There are things on that birth certificate. The time, is that time scientific? Did they do that down to the millisecond? Is that GPS time? No. This is just documentation. And the best thing I think about on this too, like, what are these really? This is where I think I'm going to make some conservatives mad. So I guess to come closer to your TV set. These are social constructs, right? The observation and the interpretation of a birth has value and meaning only within the social context of the location where that birth was observed. It's a social construct. If you go to Venus, like, nobody's going to care about your birth certificate. This is assuming, of course, that you can talk to somebody about it on Venus before you asphyxiate. And I guess, that's maybe the bigger point, too. They're not going to care about your birth certificate. They're also not going to care about your SAT scores. I don't know. Some people carry that with them forever, like a bit of luggage or something. My point here, this was my whole thought. Documentation ends up proving nothing. There's nothing valid about documentation that goes outside of the social environment where it was issued, the government, whatever it might be. And there's a few comments here that I'm going to get to. These are necessary, or these are only necessary evils. We don't have to have those. Like, if you get born in the backwoods somewhere, they're still going to go, look, there's a human. You're not going to walk in somewhere and they go, nah, we don't think you exist. Do you have a driver's license? No? Yeah, you don't exist. I mean, like, if you showed up and you go, I realize I don't have a birth certificate. My name's Jim. Can I get a driver's license? They'll go, that's fine. Who cares? At the end of this, despite anybody who's going to tell me, look, changing my documentation doesn't change who I am. Well, George Washington, apparently, must not have had a birth certificate. In fact, probably every single one of the founding fathers of the United States had no birth certificate. Because if the first clear one was 1853, almost every single one of those people was gone by then. Was George Washington not a valid person? Was his identity not valid? See, now not only am I going after, social constructs versus science, I'm also going after the founding fathers. So there's plenty of people who are going to get pissed off. All right, so that was my little thought. It was just a little tidbit, but that's the kind of thing that comes up in my head that I go, what the hell? All right, let me see what we got here. So Anita says, I lean more ASD. I got to tell you, what is ASD? I've never heard that one. I'm interested in hearing more. Brenda says she's thinking about a legal name change this year. I will tell you, that was probably the number one hugest pain in the butt that I ever had to do. I thought it was going to be so great, but then everywhere I went, like I'd go to like Qdoba to get a burrito, and they're like, "Oh, I probably should have said, they did not pay handsomely. Okay, this is not an advertisement, not an endorsement. But I'd show up and they'd go, "Oh, is it like your husband or something?" I'm like, yes. How do I change that? Which was a pain as well, by the way. Let me tell you, every single piece of documentation you got to change. But Brenda, once it's done, it's the best thing ever. I will say that. Also, I do know somebody who, I do know the executive director of the Colorado Name Change Project, and she is really super enthusiastic about this. And if you need a hand, she may help you out. So just let me know. Anita says she came out as non binary 9 years ago and only changing papers now. See, I don't think papers necessarily is an indication. There's a gatekeeping kind of thing, right? A lot of people have this gatekeepy sort of feel to who, their identity anyway. And so they say, well, if you haven't done this, if you haven't done that, you're not quite real. You haven't done a social transition unless you change your name. You haven't done a medical transition unless you've put in for surgery, and I disagree. I don't think there's anything wrong with leaving your papers until now, Anita. So there you go. Morgan, I saw this pop up when I said it. I think that's probably happened, right? Some kid gets born, doctor picks it up and goes, "You have a bouncing baby. Isn't that enough?" Because it should be. That was my little thought there too. So Brenda says churches used to keep track of births. Yes, they did. I know there are a lot of like small towns with like community Bibles, right? And when they've done that, it was not like a standard is the thing, and it was still possible for people to slip through the cracks. And you have somebody who was living out, like I said, in the backwoods, and they come in for like Easter or something. Who even knows? But they come in, the county fair, right? I heard this about people. Some people who live in the backwoods will just come down to the county fair to see them some midget wrestling. Like that was the way it was explained to me. I haven't tried it, but anyway, so some people will come in from the backwoods, I'm sure, and they'll be like, the people at the church will be like, "Oh, it's so lovely to see." Wait a minute, didn't you only have 16 children? I'm counting 17. I'll better write that down. When did it happen? In the last 4 months. That's fine. So not standardized. So you're true. There were records not always standardized. So. Morgan says she hears the Mormon Church has the largest genealogical DB in the world. Is that good or bad? I'm a little unsure. Do you mean like of their own people? Because I think I would hope so. But Anita says her dad used to drive around looking into church books to trace our ancestors. That's sort of neat. Actually used to drive around even. That's cool. Red asks a great question. How do you deal with it when they don't allow for changing it? It's a good question. Because obviously there are places in the United States now who are saying, no, we're not going to allow you to do that. I have also heard of places that will only, well, technically only prevent you from changing your birth certificate, changing some of your documentation, if you're trying to change it to like a name that doesn't match your assigned sex at birth, So one thought, Red, is that Red seems pretty gender neutral. If you walk in someplace and they go, well, change your name. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. How do you deal with it? In my opinion, seriously, the documentation is important, obviously, if you want to go somewhere with a passport. In my opinion, it was the first thing I did, and it ended up almost being more pain than it was worth. I do have documents that now say Amethysta Selena Herrick. What value has that brought me? Actually, very little. I show my driver's license relatively infrequently. If I'm going to go buy beer, they don't card me. But they don't. So I don't know. I'm not trying to say don't do it. I am saying, there's value to it, and I wouldn't assign more value to it than it's worth. So, all right. Oh, Jill is here. Hi, Jill. Oh my gosh, yeah. So she says, yeah, the name changed. Yeah, the DMV. Oh gosh, I think that was a great story. The whole deal with the DMV. Super briefly, what happened was when we first came to the city where we are now, I needed to get a driver's license changed so it had the current address. And I got, it was a transgender woman who helped me. And I remember thinking, God, I hate her. And I couldn't figure out why I hated her. But I would see her all over town. That was the weirdest thing. I go to a coffee house with my friend. There she is, sitting right across from me. I remember I went to the mall at one point. I'm walking out. She's reading a book. She glances up at me. I'm like, what are you, like, following me around? This is creepy. What's going on? Anyway, I realized what I hated was not her. I hated that I was not able to express myself the way she was. And so that was me coming to grips, first of all, with my own transphobia. That was really tough. And then when I changed my name on my driver's license, I really hoped I would get her so that at the DMV I could say, so incidentally, like 12 years ago, I walked in here and I got a driver's license. But I don't think she wanted to hear that story. So anyway, that was the story. It was a very poignant story, at least to me. Hopefully that was interesting. But hey, Genevieve, good to see you're here. Anita says, before Germany made it easy to change your name and gender, there was an organization that would issue alternative IDs. Interesting. I admit I don't completely know the value of having some of these documents. Driver's license, I understand. If you're driving 120 miles an hour, in a residential area, because I'm sure somebody did, like that, people should go, hey, how is it you're driving? But like other things, if you just, what value is that giving us? To a certain extent, I wonder. And why is that not private? Why is that a government function? So long as I think of it almost like, forgive me here, this is my my technology background, kind of like SSL certificates, right? Just like them. SSL certificates, you have a certificate, what's it called? CA, a certificate of authority. You just have one place that says, this certificate is valid. And there are a few of them. It's not all one. It's not from the government. It's all private. So anyway, that's going off nowhere. Morgan says, wow, I was thinking we should have this for basic human needs across the planet when governments fail us. That's a good question. Yeah, what if your whole government falls apart? You go to the next, the next country over. I don't know. So Red says they disagree that those things aren't a requirement. It's a requirement, absolutely. It's sort of a necessary evil. It's nice to get it done. Having your dead name everywhere, Red says, having your dead name everywhere gets annoying as you transition more and more, even if you tell people. I agree. I know somebody, or I've known a few people in Turkey, actually, who they cannot. The whole government says, just we're not going to do that. We don't even recognize you exist. So there's no way we would give you more documentation. And I don't know. I mean, she's made it through. It would be nice to get it done. And because otherwise you pretty much out yourself everywhere you go. You go, can I get a beer? And they go, yeah, sure. Oh, one of those. Okay. Which is kind of jerky. I think it's kind of jerky. Let's see. So Anita says, Germany used to require letters from two professionals to prove you're trans. That's still going on. I mean, in order to get, at the very least, gender-affirming surgery, you do have to get letters, right? I mean, this is to prove, basically, to prove you're transgender. And I don't think there's any other way to sugarcoat that. You really can't. Jill says, love you. Thank you. I did. So Jill also says, I got some fabulous person. I did, yeah. And she ended up coming out and like asking for a hug. She was she was so nice about it. Comes out and, it's like, oh, go live long and prosper kind of thing, you know. So I'm so honored I got to do this for you. And I was like, thanks. They also let me smile. In Colorado at the very least where I live, they they don't want you to smile and they also make you take off your glasses. When I first got there, my eyes weren't great, but I took them off. I'm like, "You sure you want to do this?" They're like, "Yeah, look at the camera." And I'm like, "And that's about my picture, you know." Um, so anyway, they didn't want you to smile. They want you to take off your glasses. This person says, "Okay, you know, stand there, look at the camera." She takes a picture and she goes, "No, smile for me, will you?" And I said, "Sure." Takes the picture and she goes, "Much better. There you go." Anyway, so Red brings up two professionals. Yeah, kind of a huge thing. Red says they know some countries don't require any. Wow, really? In Bulgaria? Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's one letter, though, from one psychologist. So Brenda brings up speed is only relative. I don't know what frame of reference you're in right now, but yeah. Ooh, look, Thistle says that in Canada you can legally have mononyms. I was considering doing that. I was thinking about dropping my last name altogether and just being Amethysta. That's it, nothing else. What's your last name? No, it's just Amethysta. I would kind of like that. Are you just going to go with Thistle? Because I think that would be great. Oh, Angela's here. Hi, Angela. She says she loved when she changed her name on her passport, which was done before you transition. Oh, so before medical transition, you're saying, I guess, Angela. That's pretty awesome. I don't know where that was, but that's pretty awesome. All right, and finally we got from Thistle. I don't think we have to. I don't think we have to prove shit. Shit all here in Canada when it comes to changing the gender marker. That's pretty sweet. Oh, Red, what's a mononym? Means you just have one name. So first name or last name, but only one. So I was thinking just being Amethyst, you don't get anything else. That's all you get. So, all right. So it says, yeah, it's hell signing up to on. Oh, true. So Thistle says it's hell signing up to online things though, because most require a last name. I think I could get around that. I'd find something. I don't know. All right. Well, we're 30 minutes in, 5:27. So let me do some station identification. I am Amethyst Herrick. I'm here talking Tidbit Tuesday. I am just about to bring in Margie Fancy Pants. I believe that's actually her last name too. Given name. It's French Romanian. It really is. Actually, I got that from Fletch. But I am all ready to bring Margie in. Margie, if you want, give me a thumbs up. You all ready? All right, here we go. The first guest. I hope I clicked the right one. We're finding out. No, I clicked the wrong one. Dang it. Well, I'll tell you what. I must have just screwed that up. I will do it. Just replace you. Hi, Margie. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm not sure exactly what's going on because I'm not getting a live preview on the screen thingy there, so I just hope it's all working well.
Yeah, I'm certainly hearing you. You hearing us all right? Or me?
Yep.
There you go.
And there's my passport with my name in it. And
Pretty sweet.
it was it was wonderful when I came here because I got my name and gender change done before. And so when I showed up in New Zealand, everything since has been as Margie Fancy Pants.
Oh, that's sweet. Wait, it really is? That's on your passport? Fancy pants?
It is. It is.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
Let's see. Here you go.
I absolutely love that. Oh my gosh.
I love
Look
showing
at
this
that.
thing off. I mean, people just go like, and the
Yeah.
passport agent said that my file made her weak.
Oh, I hope that's good. I hope that wasn't that she went, that's it, I gotta go take a break. But
She
that's
really
crazy.
seemed to like it. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
here in New Zealand, they're pretty easy going, laissez faire.
I like that. So if you don't, Margie and I know each other through, I guess, YouTube, right? I think it was.
Yeah.
I think that's how we met. Of course, Margie has been a mainstay in these live streams, so it's really good to meet you in person-ish. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I wanted to talk about safe spaces and the abusive spaces uh, that that false accusations can be used to keep people in our community out of the community. And,
Mm,
and this has happened to me personally, and it's an incredibly toxic situation to be.
I think that's a good point. It's very. I think it's frequent that there's somebody made a distinction, and maybe you're going to make the same. The distinction between a safe space, and I can't think of what we called the other. That safe was anything that nothing offensive should be able to be said, and then the other one, I wish I could remember, that it was safe, but it was also, if you're in this space, you agree that you may get some feedback. Are you going to make that distinction? Maybe I should say that. What was the other
Well,
word?
yeah, the one thing that's happened to me a fair number of times is that the people in charge of the space have said this is a safe space, and people have come up and said Margie makes me uncomfortable. And
Mm,
what does that mean? Like, it's not being comfortable is a human right, and the accusations of defamation protect no one. They
mm,
only cause harm, especially if the accusations and evidence are kept secret from the accused. If
yeah,
they're made up,
yeah,
how they should know.
yeah. Thistle has brought up that you could call that an accountable space, and I like that. That it should be safe, and yet you may be held accountable for what it is you're saying. But it sounds like you're saying that the places you've been to have not been accountable spaces. That there's a Go ahead. I'm looking at your face.
Well, these accusations, which are usually completely vague,
Mm,
uh, they 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 take no accountability for the damage that is caused by exclusion, and so there have been accusations on some sort of a horrible criminal abuser. Of course, that leaves the question open as to how did I get into New Zealand if this is true?
true.
Um, and the police actually know that, in fact, they're the people dead named me. So,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah,
Well,
this clearly has no basis, but I find the door slammed in my face without any sort of accountability. And this is toxic. It prevents any possibility of healing.
for you and for other people. I mean, because
Yeah,
if somebody is contributing to a space, and then somebody else goes, "Well, we just need to boot her out." There should be. It's interestingly, just a quick aside. This happened with a friend of mine in another totally other type of situation where suddenly they were just like, "Okay, you're out. Bye." She was booted from the Discord server, and it was like, well, and I asked the question, what are the rules of engagement? Like, what was violated? And that's kind of an important point, and maybe that's where accountability really comes in. So,
yeah. I was thrown out of Discord communities, and the entire process was the server vanished, and I had a message from them saying user is a dangerous.
okay, that's yeah, kind of that's pretty blunt.
Yeah,
What do you recommend in
I'm a
this?
fan
Oh,
of the
good,
Sister
good.
Early, which is by Alison Green, and it's all about addressing toxic masculinity through feminization.
Oh,
And so they're talking about these dangerous people who become safe once they have been feminized.
oh,
And so this alleged abuse in the past, even if it's accurate, and this assumes that for example that the law is perfect, which I don't think many of us would say,
No.
that if there's a fault in the law, then slamming the door in the face of these people is just magnifying that damage.
Yes. Right. And I seem to remember you brought that up recently in some other live stream that the law is certainly not necessarily infallible, and certainly it can be taken advantage of. So,
It can be weaponized.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. What do you recommend? Like, how do we get out of that? If you get into a safe space and you see it's not accountable, what steps do you think should be taken? Could be taken?
Well, I think if there's some dispute going on, if someone makes someone else uncomfortable, then banning them, which is basically the equivalent of the death penalty in our community,
Yeah.
is a vast overreaction. Rather, what you should do is connect together, get the people in one place, so there can be understanding.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. A question on that though, because how public should that be, or do you maybe just the results are public that it? I don't know, because sometimes you do have somebody who's just not a good player. I'm trying to be kind about it. Sometimes you get people who are just sort of bad actors, and what do you do in that case?
I think anytime you have something as serious as exclusion, which is, like I say, it's the equivalent of the death penalty in our community and can absolutely result in the victims being unalive,
Mm,
that there should be, and at least an opportunity for things to be addressed in a public forum of some sort
yeah.
so that there can be understanding and if the evidence is solid, then but even in the cases where the accusation is true, there's a lot to be said for allowing them in anyway and helping to heal. And you can keep an eye on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good point. It's a good point.
If
Um,
the person is just has the door slammed on them, then there's no chance for a false accusation to be discovered. And
right.
also, with that person being denied healing, self harm is a distinct possibility. I have self harmed
Right.
myself. I've become suicidal.
Yeah.
Um, and it's certainly conceivable that someone so enraged by the environment of this that they put other people in the community at home.
Yeah. Yeah. The thought that occurred to me too is that if there were going to be public, like if it were public, well, what is the accusation? And it were at least somewhat public, semi-public, or at least made public afterward. I bet you that would probably curb some false accusations, right? Because if somebody goes, "Ooh, wait, everybody's gonna know if I say something," well, I mean, if I accuse somebody of something, that's pretty serious. Really, at
There
the end of
should
all
be
of this,
ramifications for this. I've
right?
had places and people literally say, I'm going to keep that to myself. So all I'm left with is that my crime is my existence.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's
yes.
not consistent with queer ideals, as I understand them.
No, certainly not. Right? We're supposed to be proud of who we are and proud of who everybody else is. So yeah, what a bowl.
Mm.
Not a bowl of anything pleasant was supposed to be the point there, but that's a bummer. I am curious too, because because you're bringing up community, and you've said it's critical, especially in the transgender community. We sort of how do I want to put this? We sort of have the tendency, or can have this tendency, to chew each other up. I mean, like this does seem sort of typical. Is that the word I want to use? That you'll have somebody who just needs to get attention or whatever, and will purposely chew other people up. I don't know exactly if there's a question in that, but I mean, you've
Well,
seen
I'm
this, I
pretty
assume.
sure that in my case, the instigator of all this was trying to build a reputation for herself as a
Okay.
monster killer because she was a law student. I don't know if she's a lawyer now or not, but
Mm-hmm.
she wanted to get a reputation of defending the community.
Yeah,
And so what she did, because she's a coward, is invented a monster in me
I see.
and then destroyed the monster,
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
did nothing. It made the community a more dangerous place, not a safer place.
Certainly. Oh, sure. I mean, if you see somebody who seems not to have done anything, and all of a sudden he or she is ostracized, that doesn't do any
And not
good.
just
They are
that, I was
ostracizing
beaten
them.
up to public spectacle
Mm,
in front of hundreds of
mm,
people at a trans march.
okay. Yeah, that's not good. And certainly my
And
heart
these
goes out
attacks
to
have
you.
even continued here in New Zealand as this person has sent false and defamatory documents through back channels in order to exclude me from community here, even on the other side of the planet.
It's stunning. It's stunning. I can't come up with any good reason for that. But I also can't come up with any good reason why we need to tear people apart either. Tear people down. So I guess make of that what you will.
We're both baffled by that.
Yeah. So this I don't think that this comment was exactly intended to be like this, but Red says that when her coworkers found out she was trans, and Red, I'm guessing pronouns they. Let me use they at this point. When they figured out they were trans, and now they feel much better, much more comfortable around them. See, so some discussion can be healing, not just for Red, but for the rest of that community. Now they have something new that they can bond over. Is that partly how you know Red for that? I know, right?
But through online Discord community,
Okay.
stuff, yeah, been
Yeah.
talking for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I love that for you, Red. And so does Anita, and so does Genevieve, and so does Morgan. That's cool. So we're
I
running
also want
down.
to
You
send a
have
shout out
to wait to whom?
to Anita.
Oh, hello
I
then.
definitely know Anita. Actually, Anita connected me with you originally.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Do you have anything you want to plug? You have any? I don't know what else
Oh,
to ask.
here,
Oh, there you
this is my
go.
emotional support, Ziggy Stardust.
Right, right. I am stunned by that. That is so amazing. I absolutely adore that. Did you?
Two
Where did
different
that
color
come
dyes.
from?
Well,
I
it
know.
was made by a lovely person down in Nelson, New Zealand. Her name is Marina, and she makes these dolls. And she gave me this one when I was there and having a terrible time, as literally as an emotional support gift. So,
I love it. I think it's amazing. It's Ziggy Stardust, by the way, if nobody
yeah.
caught that. But well, cool. Margie, I appreciate this. You were the very first victim. Hopefully, it was a decent. Hopefully, it was a decent experience. Oh, it's
It was
blinking
fun.
now. Good. Thank you so much for coming on. So I'll give you a heart, by the way. Hope you stick around.
Well,
I do actually have one more guest. I would say, Natalie, I'm giving you a moment here to collect yourself. This is an interesting tidbit. I went to not like this kind of tidbit. I went to a women's networking group yesterday, and it was the very first time I'd ever been to like a real women's networking group because I'm very cognizant of how people will perceive me. My friend Natalie here, who's coming on in a sec, embraced me warmly. And I just, so I wanted to throw that out there. I've known her literally, I don't know, 30 hours at this point. Are you all ready to go, Marge? Sorry, Natalie? Give me a thumbs up or. Okay, here we go. Hello. Oh my gosh, I screwed this one up too. What's wrong with me? I thought I had all this set up. Give me one sec. Whoopsie daisies. Replace speaker with Natalie. Hello, Natalie. How are you doing?
And the whole thing comes up on stage.
Yeah? Isn't that fun? Oh, I gotta
Is that
reset. Oh, there we go. How are you doing?
I'm excellent.
That's good. Did I give you a good intro?
You did. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
welcomed me warmly. That was what I thought. We were
And here
both
you
new
are
though.
doing the same.
I That's a good point. Yeah, I know. Now you get to see me somewhat in an element, if not the best. What do you want to talk about?
When you okay, can you give me advice on how to get rid of the feedback?
Yeah,
Is
if
it
you look in
me?
the I don't know. Should be in the settings
That's
under
such
and
a
then
dangerous
audio.
question. Is it me?
I didn't touch it.
I wouldn't.
Uh-uh.
I am just getting so much audio feedback that I need to make sure
Yeah.
that
Should be a little gear thing and then in there you can turn off noise reduction and echo and turn on echo cancellation, but something to look at. But
audio output expert. Okay, speak with me, please.
you
Audio
want me to
output.
say something?
Yeah, no, it's good. I'll
Hello.
just go for it. So,
All right.
am I here?
Yes.
What do I want to talk about? I've had a hell of a day.
Oh,
I've been sitting on my living room floor for the better part of 24, 48. What's after that? It doesn't
72.
matter.
Yeah.
I'm just playing. Um, I have crayons. I have my whiteboard. I have my notebooks. I have my pencils, all my pens, tissue box, like 4 glasses of water. And I'm literally flipping back and forth from minute to minute in this not so in love situation with the system I'm playing in.
Mm.
And it's coming to me from a place of my where my spirit fits in all this.
We're not in a
And
great place in American history.
yeah, it sucks. And it's the most beautiful fucking time I've ever. I just am like, we get to like see this. I mean, that blows my mind that I'm here for this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating to watch sort of the folding, like when we're watching like our entire government just completely show that it's, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, incompetent. The whole government.
All of it. It's like it's a wormhole in the universe.
It is. It's a
It's like,
wormhole.
do you remember when you were young and you first learned that there was like space was forever and you're like, but really? And then you try and get views of like what was beyond that thing that you understood didn't have an
Right.
end. That's what this feels like. At the same
Hmm.
time, it feels like we're witnessing. I can't believe that I can say that I'm alive in this
Yeah.
threshold. This is a threshold that we are standing on.
Yeah.
And to
Do you,
be able to, back to your introduction, to be able to turn left and right, forward, backwards, and make sure I got my people. Woo! Like I'm reaching for your hand.
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
knew that within seconds. So
Yeah. Do you think this is a good threshold or a bad? I mean, again, I don't know if I want to ask the question like that. There are negative ways we could go forward, but are there positive ways we could go forward through this threshold?
Well, that's kind of the nature of the threshold, right? Is living in duality.
Mm,
That's the
yeah.
threshold.
It's a crazy
Like,
liminal space right now.
yeah,
So,
this way has left and right and wrong, boy and girl, right?
yeah.
You dress out of a Nordstrom bag. This side, no, that like, so is it good or bad? It's all, and like that makes me really excited because where
Yeah.
I do my best work is on the floor with my crayons and my markers, and this this
Yeah.
is real.
Yeah.
So I think
Yes.
there's plenty of opportunity.
Oh, I agree. I I have a bit. I'm not going to call it a bit. I have a thing, sort of the main topic that I was going to talk about tonight. After you and I talk, that that I think is one of the beginnings of the realization that what we're doing so far has just not worked. It's primarily talking about science. You know that science gets puts itself into its lets itself get put into a situation where it can be weaponized, and yeah, I think we're at this threshold that we either go science is not about statistics or I'm not even sure how else I want to put that. So
Yeah.
anyway, I got a whole thing about it. So maybe I don't want to give it all away, but yeah, it'll be a good threshold. I think it's a good threshold. I think we're watching so many things start to fracture, that we're seeing these cracks sort of forming in this wall, that I suspect it's making at least people in the US, probably further out, go, okay, this is a major social issue. Societal. This is where I want to use the word societal as opposed to social. It does have to do with hierarchies as opposed to, actual
Hmm.
interaction. Anyway, I wish I weren't here watching it, but it's really a good place to be, and I think that was how you opened this.
Do you have international guests that share with you what they see from their side?
I have a couple friends in. So Margie, who was on before, she's in New Zealand. I
Mm,
have a couple of friends in Australia, several friends in England, and yeah, there's like horror, but you don't have to. I mean, you just go to like the BBC news page,
yeah.
and you'll see. There was a like a document, like a declaration on Pride Day, so June 28th, I think it was. Many countries signed this thing that said, we pledge
Yep.
support to the queer community. The
Mhm.
U.S. was noticeably absent from that. But like the rest of the world is kind of going, oh, well, shit, if they're falling apart, maybe we should pick up a little slack here. And
Mm,
and I'm curious if they're like trying to hasten, you know, hasten the decline. I hope so. I hope they're going, make sure that these people fall apart. But I don't know. I think it's
it's
it,
it's gonna be interesting
yeah,
what we witness. Uh, and I'm gonna hang out with the folks that have their hands extended. Yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah. Can
um,
you when we met, you said, I work with misfits. Will you tell us at least a little bit? Because then you said you're a misfit. And I went, no, I'm not. And then you were like, oh, sure. You look like you fit in pretty well. And I'm like, I mean, I guess you sussed me. Like that. Can you tell us a little bit, like, what's going on with that? This is almost like a plug time, by the way.
oh,
Feel
I'm
free to
trying this
plug.
out.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I get this email today.
Oh, wait a second. We all of a sudden lost audio. Did, yeah, on you. Let me check off stage. Are you still hearing me, Margie? Is anybody hearing me? Or is it me? Okay. Yeah, so I think it's just you, Natalie. There is nothing like using a computer. I'm not hearing you now. I think there's nothing like using a computer to frustrate the bejesus out of everybody. Well, we have a second too. Red did mention that Margie hits the fashion every time, right? We got Ziggy Stardust and we got like the pink jacket. Okay, is that working? Ah, I'm not hearing you. Oh, hang on. You are flashing a bit though. So,
How about now?
oh yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Ooh, now I'm hearing me
Ooh,
though.
now I'm hearing me, though.
You may want to turn on
I
echo
want to turn on
cancellation.
echo cancellation.
I'm sorry, this is awful. It's on, sis. Yeah, it's on.
Oh, I will just be
I
quieter.
will just be quieter.
I can hear you whisper at a whisper.
Okay. So, the lead up is this. Can you hear me?
Yep,
Okay.
now I'm hearing you, and I don't hear
So,
me.
I
Even better.
nice. I'm glad we worked our shit out.
Yeah.
So, I got this email today, and bullet point number 3 read, I am looking for 2 women to go live in the group with some energy and value around your niche. Please
Okay.
know, capital N-O, woo, spirituality, or politics. We are looking for value driven teachings with at least 3 steps you can share to help women business owners thrive in their life.
What else do
Okay,
you
so
have? What?
what the
I mean, Jesus.
how am I supposed to even fucking introduce myself?
Right.
My name's Natalie Peterson. I am a mental and spiritual health mentor.
Yes.
And I work absolutely like I have a crush on misfits who are swinging off the edges of XLS, who are like just PDF your systems. I don't need any more systems. I don't need any more templates.
Yeah.
Um, and my mantra is be, do, have. In any other order, it it doesn't work. And I've
I
tried it.
like that.
Yeah, I really
Yeah.
have. I spent the first beautiful years of my life in complete be, do, have because that's what my folks allowed me to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They met my needs, right? And then my B slowly started getting smooshed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And right around 22, my father committed suicide, took his own life. I'm
Yeah.
still working on the words. That put me into do, have, be mode. I could give a shit who I am. I'm doing whatever it takes to have
To have.
as much
Yes.
space from this moment in time as possible. And I went the next many years in do, have, be mode. I climbed all the ladders, did shit. I can tell you crazy stories. Then I ran smack into myself, inherited a bunch of money, have, do, be. I could give a shit who I am. I got money. I can buy it. I can do whatever
Right.
I want until
Right.
you run out of all that. And then you are
That's
left with what you got.
that is the American dream, though, isn't it?
It is
Have, do,
all of
be.
it. It's
So
the
long as you've got
system
a
I'm
bunch of
raging
things.
against.
Yes.
Yeah.
As we should. Because it doesn't
Yeah.
help anybody.
That
Red
makes
wants
me
to
a
thrive as a
misfit.
freelancer, but yeah. Oh, I see. I see. Now I see the misfit.
We're
Yeah,
all
we
sitting here wiggling without a way through it. Why does this feel so bad?
Right. Right.
It's not made for you.
No, agreed. Agreed. So Natalie, thank you so much. We're out of time. Do you like how it flashes? It's very professional. Let me say thank you so much. Obviously, we're going to talk again because as you've mentioned, we're each other's people. So thank you so much for coming and talking. It's
Yeah,
awesome. Bye.
appreciate you.
You can
Thank
please stick around if you wanted to come back, and I'll show you the. You can see the other little presentation I was going to do. So thank
Love
you,
it.
Natalie.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. I'm going to take a couple of minute break because why not? It's not going to be more than 5 minutes, but I'm going to take a break and just stretch for a moment. So I recommend you do the same because I've got a presentation coming up right after this that's going to be about how scientists actually step up and say, maybe we should be responsible for the science that goes out in the world. I know, sounds crazy, but that's what scientists are doing. So, I am Amethyst Herrick. This is your Identify Yourself podcast on Tuesdays, June 8th, and I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Well, I mean, you can go to the can if you need to, because you got like 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, back soon. Okay, I've come back. I'm going to wait a moment just to make sure that everybody is back from the wherever you went. Okay. There's a topic that I've thought about quite a bit over certainly the past 6 months, and I've thought about this. Well, let me get comments back up. I've thought about this quite a bit because we're seeing this gender debate. I keep on wanting to put this into quotation fingers because it's not really a debate. You have people who say that they're using science, and it's actually on both sides. I'm not trying to vilify any particular political party or any person, but it's using statistics, or it's using somewhat questionable methods of doing science again, to prove a political point. And in the end, what we're looking at is a political point, not actually like a scientific argument. So this is what I've been talking about, or this is what I've been thinking about. So I've got a whole bit of, let me share that screen there. So I have a whole bit that I wanted to talk about here, that I think is very important. So let me go ahead and switch to this here. Look at that. I even impressed myself. So you can see what I'm looking at here. This is an article that you can see is from phys.org. Phys.org. I'm sure everybody goes here all the time, right? It's all about science news, which is cool. Run with it. This particular article, this is why it stuck out to me. It says, for effective scientific communication, just the facts isn't good enough, say scholars. Now, so will tell you, by the way, I've got the only one monitor now, so I may struggle with comments. I'm going to keep switching back and forth, but if it takes me a moment to get to your comments, cut me some slack, I guess. So in this article here, in the Proceedings of the National Academies of Science, and so this is an important conversation going here. I love how this starts off. In a new communications landscape that feasts on polarization. Yeah, that's the gender debate. Sorry, quotation fingers. Gender debate in a nutshell. The point here is that the science community, as it says, needs to rethink how it engages society. And, that's essentially we have scientists who aren't necessarily adding to the issue here. We have science that's being used in ways that isn't effective and isn't even true. So that's what I want to talk about right now. It's interesting here. It says the standard communication model of disseminating the facts and assuming the truth will prevail says it's increasingly falling on deaf ears, right? It's very true. Both sides have said, look, we have science. We have science. The truth will prevail. It's just science. Trust the science. But that's increasingly falling on deaf ears. Why is it falling on deaf ears? Because you have two different sides coming with two different arguments and calling it science. Which obviously it's not. It can't be. That's not how science works, right? It's not only scientists that say the truth will prevail. It is absolutely the case that you'll have a scientist who just goes, you know what, we don't need to get involved here, right? This is what I'm seeing as far as the gender debate goes. We don't have to get involved here because the truth will prevail. And so far, that's not been true. So this bit about truth prevailing, I mean, politicians do this. They pretend their science is solid when they may know nothing. These aren't scientists, right? These are politicians. So what this article brings up is that the point of this National Academy of Sciences study is to address a perilous gap. This perilous gap between science and society on major issues of the day. And they bring up things like climate change. That's a perilous gap between science and society. I think vaccines has become a big thing. And then two things that, like we kind of, gene editing and artificial intelligence. Now we're starting to talk about ethical concerns as well. But here's a quote. Scientists do a good job of answering the technical questions they think are relevant. But these are not the questions communities are asking. What are they asking about? Wow, what a good question. Communities are asking, first of all, about what the science means for their personal identities. There's a few bits that I would put into that. Personal identities. Identity. I would almost say, first of all, we're looking less so at identity and more at politics. And I know politics is part of an identity, but I think that's more the point. It's not that somebody goes, oh, I heard that, science just found, a ninth exoplanet. That doesn't mean anything to your personal identity. I mean, maybe it does, but sorry, if you're like the ninth exoplanet person, forgive me for diminishing that. So this is really what we're really talking about politics here. That's the thing. So it's what science means for their personal identities and their fears about a future. This is where science needs to step up, is to help people figure out, how's the politics go? Because when the politics are screwed up, you definitely fear your future. There's obviously a connection between politics and the future. So really what this question is how does science fit into our lives? How should science fit into our lives? I don't like the way this article puts this. The technical answers are just one element of a scientific debate. No, technical answers are just one element of debate, of any debate. What should happen in a debate is the technical answers that science provides are the axioms of a logical argument. They're the basis, they're the foundation from which a debate can even occur. A set of data, remember, is only observations. And if you're going to have a debate, what you need to do is agree on axioms first. And when you have a set of axioms, so you have a set of observations, when you have that set of observations and you've agreed that this is the axiom of your argument, now you can have a debate about the interpretation. And then you can debate about the public policy that comes with it. So the technical answers are not just one element of scientific debate, it's all debate here. So this says they are really about people's values and the trade-offs that come with policy choices. Obviously, the technical answers are not, people's values and the trade-offs that come with policy choices is that interpretation. So I don't like how this was written. That being said, I'm going to go back on something else later on in this little presentation. So there is some, oops, did I lose something here? No, here we go. If I scroll down just a little bit here, where is this? Okay, so now we get to some conclusions, some interesting conclusions. Let me check comments really fast to see if there are any. So let's see. Morgan says it's hard because so many of us and others get in trouble when we look to others for who we are rather than asking ourselves and being willing to dive deep into uncomfortable waters. And I think that ultimately is, is ultimately the point. That's the that's where we want our validation to come from outside, and it's because it's easier. Ultimately, it's kind of easier. If we I've talked about ethically unassailable scientific arguments, right? If you have something scientific, then somebody can't tell you, look, you're wrong to be transgender. You're wrong to be queer in any way. So yeah, we do look to others and we look to science to validate things. Absolutely. It's difficult. It's very difficult to accept who you are and to express that because you know you're right. Angela says in politics, each side picks out what proves their argument and ignores what doesn't. I'd like to change that slightly. I don't think they pick out what proves their argument. And I'm not saying you're wrong. Here's how I'd like to see that rephrased, because it doesn't make a difference if it proves it or not. What I think both sides have done at this point is pick out random, statistics about human development, particularly in the gender debate. Same with climate change, for that matter. They pick out random facts here and then just say that it does. With no other validation, no other discussion, they just go, well, see? Doesn't that prove my point? And when somebody goes, no, they go, well, trust the science. Trust the science. That's what's wrong with you. You're not a scientist. If you were a scientist, you would understand this. And I'm getting this from like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Just spoiler alert, not a scientist. So Margie says cherry picking is anti-science for sure. Yeah, that's cherry picking. That's pulling facts out of the air to make a political point and then parading that as science. It becomes the pageantry of politics ultimately. And so now Brenda makes a good point, and I'm going to pull this up. The problem is that both sides won't agree on axioms. So the thing is that they won't agree on interpretation. The set of data is just a set of data. That's an observation of the world. And I think that's all we got. I mean, it's a set of data, and it should be the foundation, only the foundation of a discussion. So the problem that I see, Brenda, is not necessarily that they don't agree on a set of observations, but that they don't have a set of observations. They go, well, here's the statistics. It must all be true. Vote for me and I'll set you free. Let me go back to this now. So, let me go back to this. All right. There's some interesting points here. Scientists often so these are some conclusions. Sorry, these are some conclusions, not entirely true. I read the paper, but scientists often artificially position science as value-free. That's not artificial. A set of observations are value-free. Now, as a scientist, I will tell you, not every observation will be precise, necessarily reproducible. Not every observation might be accurate, like actually reflecting what it is you are trying to measure. So I'm not trying to say that science is infallible. I'm trying to say that observations are only that. They are observations. You can look at nature and go, that's it. Like it's right there. Here's my observation. So this is an interesting tidbit. So if you say that science is value-free, it ignores the fact that scientific evidence and societal values equally shape public policy. I think scientific evidence is actually far in the background in terms of shaping public policy, because most people are not scientists, which is okay. It's totally okay. But the problem here is exactly what this article is supposed to, is this study, this article is supposed to address, which is that scientists tend to default on, educating the public appropriately. Now, let me check comments really fast. What's Thistle's bit is being transgender is caused by climate change, air pollution, and microplastics. Wonder what they would say to that. You know what? Honestly, I think somebody would latch on to that, no doubt, in my opinion. All right. So Morgan also brings up the point. This is exactly the point. It's hard when being queer is not supported by any of the large systems set up for community, religion, government, or family. Certainly religion. Queer people have to rely on chosen family and allies to feel supported. Yes, in this political climate. And my point would be that that's because we misuse pretend science to make political points. And supposedly this will help. Supposedly this will help. Here's a fascinating little bit here. So anyway, I had mentioned, I think scientific evidence and societal values, or they say, ignores that fact. I think, science is only an input to public policy, and society may ignore it if it so chooses. And we've seen that over and over and over and over and over and over again. Look at this. What a little interesting factoid here. Polarization around science is getting worse. By 2022, here we go, 28% of Republicans and 53% of Democrats expressed a great deal of confidence in the scientific community. 28%. It's kind of funny because usually Republicans call themselves the party of science, right? We're not even 1 out of 3 Republicans expresses a great deal of confidence in the scientific community. Party of science? But look at this. Half of Democrats? Because then Democrats claim the same, but 1 out of 2 doesn't have a lot of confidence in science. Now, for what it's worth, I don't think that's the fault of Republicans or Democrats. I think that's the fault of science, ultimately. But within this current communication ecosystem, look at this. Politicized science ensures that the loudest and most extreme voices get the most attention. Isn't that what we've seen? That's exactly it. Politicized science is not even a thing. Politicized science means weaponized science. It means that it's not actually science. It means it's the appearance of science. Only the appearance. You can't politicize a set of observations. You can't politicize the scientific method. I've already done live streams on it is self-correcting. It certainly should be self-correcting. So here's the other thing here. So it's not actually science, but here's the thing. As it turns out, what do we have here? So loudest and most, where is it? Here it is. It's more important than ever for scientists to address the growing divide between science and society. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. Because that's all politics is. But here's the kicker. Scientists need to recognize their role in the problem. Right? Absolutely. You want to see something funny? Here's a nice website for you. Retraction Watch. Retraction Watch. Let me go and check comments really fast. So Margie confirms what Morgan says that's exactly right. It underscores which is to say what Morgan said, which was that a queer identity is not supported by large systems. And so Margie says it's exactly right. It underscores the importance of the community exclusion problem she talked about. Yeah. That's anti-scientific and depressive behavior. Yep. So here we go. Morgan makes a good point. They are defunding science. I'm going to get to that point, actually. So there you go. And then ask ChatGPT to fill in their gaps. Well, this article does bring up, AI. So, all right. So retraction watch. If you've ever published in a scientific journal, usually when I was in graduate school anyway, the idea was you wanted to get every word perfect, because if you didn't get every word perfect, you might get somebody who would write a letter to the editor and say, "Oh, this is crap. What we really need to, what we need to do is fix this, fix that," and that's what a retraction was. So you'd have to print something that says, "Okay, we did that part wrong." But it was a scientist admitting they were wrong, and that's a huge deal. When I was in graduate school, it was a huge deal. Now it seems not to be, and I just want to scroll down a little bit here. Hopefully you can see this. The retraction watch lists. There's a leaderboard. Okay, a leaderboard. How many? So the top retraction here. This is career-wide. 220. Listen, when I was in graduate school, there were many, many, many scientists over the course of a 30-year career who would not have 220 articles in their CV. This person's got 220 retractions. Huh. Unless you think that's only, schmoes. Joachim Bolt must be a schmo, right? How about retractions by Nobel Prize winners? Here is a Nobel Prize winner with 15 retractions. Now you'll notice for the most part, not a lot. One, right? One, listen, usually it was a big thing, right? If you had a retraction, it was a huge thing. But Nobel Prize winners getting 15 retractions, okay? It happens because science can be wrong. But here's the thing, people don't trust science because you get people who will publish an article and then the next month they go, it was all crap. Sorry, we had no idea. It was all crap. Just crap. Don't worry about it. But going back here, recognize its role in the problem. Yeah, right. Because we're kind of doing, we have the tendency these days to kind of do crap science. And it's okay, because the peer review process has become just about like picking up your friends, okay? But until they recognize the role, here we go. We'll end up in more and more situations like we're in now, where science becomes a chess piece. And that's all science is, unfortunately. It's become this huge chess piece. You get Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's going to tell you she knows all about biology because somebody told her something, and it becomes a chess piece. That's what all of these statistics are designed to do. They mask a political agenda, which, I've said before, political agendas are okay, but don't fake that it's science that does it. Margie brings up winning the retraction Olympics. I don't know if I have the feeling that might be ignoble. Just a thought. So, all right. I have no idea. Thistle asks, that's the perverted dude. I wish I knew. Who knows? Okay, so here's another little bit. What they were trying to say here, if you would go all the way back, you'll notice I wanted to skip over this because here's how this person has interpreted this document, that the science community needs to create a collaboration model. Well, I'm going to tell you, collaboration model is kind of a scary tidbit. Actually, though, there was one thing I forgot to mention too. Oops, I'm scrolling too far here. So the chess piece. Regarding being a chess piece, here is the best part of this entire article. Science is the most important mechanism we have for creating, curating, and disseminating knowledge. Knowledge. That's it. Knowledge. Not public policy. Knowledge. Knowledge is not wisdom. Wisdom is knowledge applied. Knowledge is not ethics. Knowledge does not prove or disprove ethics, which are human concerns. Knowledge. This is a set of observations. This is how the universe works. Very different from how humans work. when you invoke science, just because you invoke science doesn't mean that your politics are valid or even humane. I think that's the big point there. All right, let me jump back up to the top here. So the collaboration model here. So this is interesting. It invites, the idea is to invite more public conversations, incorporate personal morals and values, create a level playing field for input, embracing uncertainty. I think this person may not have completely got what the point was supposed to be, because I want to ask some questions. Like, level playing field for input. What does that mean? Does that mean we have to rank, 500 years worth of observing biology as level with Genesis? Somebody's translation of Genesis? Is that now a science textbook? Is that what that is? Embraces uncertainty. Uncertainty is not the word that, is the word that the authors use, but it's not what they intend. They're not talking about throwing out data. They're not talking about throwing out data or throwing out conclusions because they have error bars on their statistics. That's not what they're talking about. They are talking about evolution, that science is never finished. It's a process. And what we knew 50 years ago, which incidentally, 50 years ago, what did we know? What did we know? What do we know? We knew XXXY. 50, 60 years ago, that was what we had. We were like, yeah, XXXY, as far as gender, as far as sex goes, that's what we knew. But that doesn't mean that it stopped. And to pretend like today, like that's valid science is ludicrous. Science is never finished. That's really what this is supposed to intend. So here we go. Because I can't let a sleeping dog lie. Let me check comments really fast. Let me see what we got here. Prefer to do so. The incentives. Okay, so this is interesting. Anita, I'm going to get to your point. I really swear I'm going to. Because Anita brings up their incentives for which science, for doing science. They're related to funding. Yes, very true. And I'm going to get to that. Margie says she watched a video about trans women being excluded from women's chess. Do you know I saw that article? It's like, okay. I mean, what a kick to the teeth, from the patriarchy, right? Ugh. So Margie's saying she knows trans women being excluded from darts. So here we go. Thistle says, get businessmen and women out of politics. Well, yeah. So it says politics is a place for philosophers and professors. I don't know. Politics is about what is polite, moral, ethical. Yeah. But Thistle brings up, do we know any businessmen who are polite, moral, and ethical? Nope. Not many. All right. To go back to this, here we go. This is the abstract of this an agenda for science communication, research, and practice. This is the article that from which this article was written. Okay, so this is the report on it. You can see it is voluminous. Okay, it's big. It's very large. So I just want to look at the abstract. Okay, this is always the major conclusions. So so in this, they identify two paradigms for science communication. One of them is the facts will prevail, right? That we just give them a textbook, who the hell cares? The other, as they put it, emphasizes participation, I got to find the period, emphasizes participation and engagement with the goal of improving public understanding of science. Improving public understanding of science. I think that's the big point. Scientists' big issue right now is that we need to do a better job of representing what a data set even means. We struggle with that. And you can see this in politics because, some data set will come out and somebody will make an interpretation on it and say, well, that interpretation is science, but it's not. That set of observations was the science that was done. We need to improve the public understanding of that. That I agree with 100%. Absolutely. But here's the, and along those lines, as we improve public understanding of science, scientists need to stand up when you get a politician who makes a foolish use of science. We don't want to just let, I mean, there have been a couple of letters, public letters, a letter that they're going to publish in an academic journal that says, we categorically disagree with these executive orders. You're going to put that in the journal that nobody's going to read. So all of our colleagues, we go, oh yeah, totally. And then move on. No, we need to stand up when a politician makes a foolish use of science. But here's the other huge point. I'm going to highlight it separately. We need to improve scientists' understanding of the public's concerns, needs, and values. To Anita's point, we end up with drug trials, like clinical trials, that don't even test the pharmaceutical on the people it's intended to be used. Like thalidomide is a phenomenal example, right? This thalidomide went through a clinical trial. Thalidomide is an anti-nausea medication intended for women who were pregnant. And the clinical trial was done solely on men who, by the way, just spoiler alert, they weren't pregnant. Okay, I mean, if that was not obvious, this was done on people assigned male at birth who are not pregnant. Turns out the anti-nausea works great when you are not pregnant. Unfortunately, did have a high bring with it a high occurrence of birth defects. But we didn't do that. So yes, this is a misunderstanding of the public's concerns, needs, and values. There is no doubt. A book just came out, I think, last month, about women's biochemistry. It was a distinction, talking about the distinction between people assigned male at birth biochemistry and people assigned female at birth biochemistry. Usually women's biochemistry is far less studied, including the menstrual cycle, including menopause, because women's sports are just less popular. Nobody cares. So why would you study women? There's no reason for it. Women's sports are less popular. Women don't run the world, so women's biochemistry is not studied. That is not an understanding of the public's concerns, needs, and values. Now, I will also say scientists go off on our own directions. Like very often, I mean, the stuff that I worked on as a graduate student. I was trying to make a better TV set to a certain extent. There was one part, better TV set. Sometimes we just go off on our own. That happens. It does happen. It has happened. It happened to me. But the big point here is that science is largely tied to public funding. And if it's not tied to public funding, the private funding is trying to make a product. It's not about trying to do something that's right for science. It's trying to do something that's going to be right for a company. Science is largely tied to public funding. And any conversation that's going to happen here, if we're going to have a conversation that emphasizes participation and engagement, that conversation had better change public funding of science. Because there's a lot of, I haven't been involved in writing a grant for a long time now, but the thing is that these grants, you have to phrase it in a way that some politician will go, well, yeah, we could get political pull out of that. So that needs to change. So this will hopefully that address some of what you said, and Anita same. The incentives. So Anita did say, the incentives for which science are done, they're a big issue. The incentives, yeah, they're all related to money. Very infrequently do we see science done for science sake. And I'm not saying we should, because science is most valuable when it addresses humanity in some way. Sometimes fundamental studies are okay, but for the most part, what we should want to do is make the human condition better. So anyway, Thistle and Anita, hopefully that did that. Let me see. So in math class, yes. So Morgan asks, in math class, solving for X or Y was really asking you to investigate your gender. It was, yeah. Yeah. That's why I liked algebra so much, I suppose. So let's see. Anita says, okay, so we're back on darts. I've heard that women's dart leagues were created in the first place because men couldn't stand losing to women. I'm willing to bet that's true. Like, I have little doubt. I think I'm going to say that. Because it's not like, aim is necessarily like a masculine or feminine trait, right? What in the world? So, but Thistle brings up the point, that's kind of the real reason any women's sports exist. I'm going to show this one. Men are all a bunch of crybabies. Certainly some. Certainly some. I don't want to make that whole generalization, but there you go. Oh, hey, Rose Sandberg is here. Hello. Hopefully you're going to see this later on. But she's saying Sweden stopped issuing birth certificates more than 70 years ago. I had no idea. Isn't that crazy? I had no idea. So let's see. Margie says, doing her own biochemistry studies here through her HRT protocol that emulates cis cycles. So, so the menstrual cycle is obviously what she's talking about. So there's different curves for blood concentration for both estradiol and progesterone in cisgender women during a menstrual cycle. So I know Margie has been doing that for some months now, which is kind of fun. So it turns out that Anita says that what they do in Sweden is they have a citizens register with all the data in one place, and that's interesting. I don't know if I like that or don't. I mean, so it's a citizen register. So Anita, is that government run, or is that public? Because that would be interesting if that were. Sorry, said that the wrong way. Is that public, like run by the government, or is that private? Because that sounds interesting. I'm curious. So, all right. That was my main presentation. I am very happy to see a set of scientists, any scientists, go, you know what? We may or may not be serving the public, the general public, all too well. We should consider what we're working on. So I'm super happy to see that. There you go. I'm just, I don't know. I'm not even going to read it. All right, here we go. So let's see. Red says they recently had blood tests done. Estradiol was higher than the typical high point, which was very, very heartwarming. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, WPATH recommendations on HRT, blood concentrations for HRT are different from necessarily what a cisgender woman would go through, because the HRT protocol is it's trying to make changes in your body, right? So you're trying to do something that the cisgender woman wouldn't necessarily, or sorry, the assigned female at birth body would not. So so let's see. Oh gosh, this is fascinating. Here's something else Anita said, and boy, Thistle, if this doesn't bring you something. Anita says an interesting thing about Sweden that she heard long ago that they heard long ago that everyone's tax filings are public. Oh, I'd love to see that in the United States. Oh, that would be so great. I can't even imagine how wonderful that would be if suddenly we got to see, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk's, all of their tax returns, because that would be fascinating. So, oh, Red says, so those were blood tests prior to HRT. Okay, fabulous. That's good. So they say they're hopefully getting prescriptions tomorrow. Well, I hope so too. And I'm going to, throw you up a heart there, because that would be awesome if you do, because that's just awesome like it is. All right, so Morgan brings up the point, yeah, they just moved somewhere else. That's the bummer, isn't it? I mean, when all you have, when all you've got is just to putz around and go, listen, I'm not going to follow any kind of rules. I'm just going to be, I'm just going to be what I am. So here we go. Hey, by the way, Drace has told me you sent me a video, but I didn't find myself tagged in it. I find myself tagged. I was looking around, and when I went to my I don't even know where it is, and maybe I shouldn't be looking right now, but I don't see a mention. And I'm bummed. Send it to me. Send it to me in like a link. I meant to say that. Oh, well, I was going to say it in a reply to a comment that I have yet to write. So there you go. But now you know. But Drace says, next you know, dogs and cats will get along, right? Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. That's what it is. Just like Peter Venkman said. So there you go. We would absolutely see billionaire poop heads moving off. Hey, by the way, Anita. So Anita says, what do they buy islands for after all? I think next week, and I'm not sure when she's available, but I made this new friend through YouTube, actually. I made this new friend, and anyway, she's where was I going with that? Oh, I do remember. She lives in Florida. All right. And it turns out that in Florida, there are a bajillion islands. Okay. So she lives on an island in Florida. And the point is that these islands, because there's a bajillion of them, may not actually have a name. And so what she's doing is she's actually naming it after herself. Because apparently, if you get enough people to refer to said island the way you're referring to it, it sort of becomes the de facto name. I actually kind of like that. I'm sort of like, you know, I think that's the way it should be. So hopefully she ends up with an island that's named after herself, and that's where she lives. Sorry if that was unclear. So, all right. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to do. I don't think so. I will say so. We'll say these things. So first of all, thanks so much. Both to Margie and to Natalie for their participation tonight in the show. Hopefully this sort of new format was kind of fun. Because I mean, you know, on Sundays, I've sort of done like this lecture, and one of the things that I was told was that several people have mentioned to me said I'm much better like playing off of somebody else than, you know, just like making a video and doing a lecture. And I guess I understand that. You know, I'm not saying that's bad. So what I want to do, hopefully this new format, you know, I want to keep sort of evolving this, and hopefully this was sort of fun, you know, where I have some people come in and, you know, hopefully that was a good time. But I also, you know, these little short things I think are fun. The science one was longer than I thought it was going to be. Once I read through everything, I was like, oh, this can be a long one. I was hoping to do more like 3 or 4 little topics, but you know, that's what next week's all about. So definitely thank you to Margie. Thank you to Natalie. I see Margie saying her pleasure. So there you go. Yeah, I will be back on Sunday, this coming Sunday. And you know, hopefully we'll have some good content for that. If you want to be a guest, you know, please reach out to me again. You can see it down there. Because I'd love to, you know, if you want to come on for your 15 minutes of fame, come on along. And if you have an idea, if you have something that you go, oh, this is a 10-minute little tidbit to talk about, cool. Send it my way because I'd love to talk about that. And I'll give you a little shout out for that. So Red's asking, do you do these streams every week? I do now. This was the very first, Red. The very first in this format. Usually I do streams on Sunday. That's at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. I couldn't even begin to think of what time that is for you. But so it's 2 p.m. Mountain Time. And then I'm also doing these streams now on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. The Tuesday streams are intended to be the little tidbits, and then the Sunday one, you know, hopefully is more of a longer, sort of more engaging topic that, you know, everybody can get involved in. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, so thank you to everybody, Thistle and Morgan and Drace and Anita and Margie and Red. And we had Ro and Genevieve, just everybody. So thank you so much, everybody, for showing up. I thought it was a fun time, and hopefully you did too. So I will see you this coming Sunday. Thank you very much. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. Talk soon. Bye.